Today, I'm hanging with Melissa Edwards. Mel lives out in the community of Natimuk, Victoria. She is an advocate for climbing and climbing access. In this conversation, we speak about the access issues around Grampians with the land management plan. We did record this last year, so some of the information may have changed, and there will be links below for you to access the new information. I really appreciate Mel coming on and sharing her thoughts and the information openly, and I hope you all enjoy episode 4 of The Hangout with Mel Edwards.
Basically, rock climbing became a way of life.
Ooh, lovely. Well, we don't really need to do an introduction in terms of who I'm speaking to, but I would love to allow you to introduce yourself. So the listeners will be maybe aware of who you are and what you're doing, but I'd like you just to introduce yourself to the listeners, the guests, and a bit more to myself as well.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Melissa, Mel. I am a local Natimuk resident. I've been living here about 4 years now. Got stuck in the vortex, arrived and can't leave. So I'm an avid trad climber, but do other things. I founded Climbing Cuties, which is an LGBTQ rock climbing organisation, in about 2018. I was running that one as a role of president and program coordinator until last year in November. And I stepped down from the role just to an advisory board member capacity to advocate for my community when access issues kind of became front and centre. Other than that, I work at a charity working in food relief, so I work online, which is great. Do a little bit of guiding on the side when I have some time. And what else? I think that's kind of it.
There's hours of talking there, I feel. You just skimmed across a lot of things, which is why I've been super excited to jump into this conversation, because after our previous phone call, I reached out to you because of what you're doing with the organisation that you've created now, and then you touched on Climbing Cuties, you touched on all the work that you're doing previously to this and everything that's led up to it. Just kind of got me a bit more excited as well. But let's go back to the start, and we'll work our way into what allowed me to kind of come into your sphere and know what you're about. But first, I think there's a congratulations as well in order. It looks like from socials, whether that was, recent or photos have just come out, but you just recently married as well. Was that correct?
Got married.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun. It was really good. It was a bit stressful, but I think we did a good job of running a community wedding, big potluck vibes, and running around and circusing and flying around on silks and running around in the bush barefoot.
Yeah. Oh, it looked amazing. It looked, the kind of vibe that I'll be looking to create with my partner as well. So yeah, you guys look beautiful. It looked like a nice day. So congratulations to that, and creating a future. Beautiful. But the climbing journey, it's a climbing podcast. So we'll start it off. You've been climbing for how long, and when did you start, and where did you start?
I started around 2017, I suppose, at Hard Rock in the city. It was my first time climbing, so on a top rope. Very quickly, very, very quickly got addicted to it, like a lot of people. I just remember realizing that I had no one to climb with, and then they used to have this this cone that you could just stand at if you didn't have a climbing buddy, and then some random person would come find you. So I did that until I made some friends at the gym, and just literally would just climb with anyone and everyone 4 to 5 days a week, and got well hooked. And then started bouldering at Lactic, back when Lactic was pretty much the only bouldering gym in Melbourne, Naarm. And that was interesting. I was starting to sort of branch out into the climbing community, get to know people. And then I started Cuties pretty soon after that. I love the climbing community, and it was just life-changing for me. I don't feel like that's a story I need to tell because a lot of people probably have similar experiences, but I wanted to, at that point in my life, foster a space where everyone could sort of feel welcomed. And it wasn't necessarily that I didn't feel welcome in the climbing spaces that I was in at that time, but I didn't see a lot of people that I felt like I guess had a similar sort of life experience with. So specifically people from diverse cultural backgrounds. I'm half Korean, and I was born in England, and moved to Australia as an adult, but I've lived in lots of other countries. And an LGBTQ person as well. So like, just wanted to see a bit more diversity, and I thought, hey, might as well have a go at starting a meetup. So I did that with my friend, and we just sort of put up a poster at Northside. Northside was great, and they've always been supportive right from the start. And Climbing Anchors as well. They we just reached out and said, hey, we want to start these meetups for rainbow people, and they, supported us with prizes and giveaways to sort of incentivize a little bit. And Northside was offering discounts very quickly. They actually let us use the gym before business hours, early in the morning, so we could have the space to ourselves. So yeah, it started like that, and then it just like snowballed and rapidly grew, and now we have indoor and outdoor events all across Australia, every state and territory. We do outdoor camps and trips and courses and things in retail stores with brands and businesses, and it's all on the website.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations. I mean, that's, just like a simple start to something super inspiring as well. It resonates with me because just creating this, like trying to create this podcast from the ground up, because I want to feel like that sense of community around climbing, and have a place where people can feel heard and seen, and not just like the guests that come on, but also, the listeners. Like when you're hearing like a story like yourself, I'm going to have someone for sure from any one of the communities that you've been involved with listening to you, and know that that's out there, and can help them find it, and find the space for them to climb, but also just find, more of themselves, and really connect with the people in their groups. That's super inspiring. It's grown nationwide. That's epic. Congratulations. That's so sick.
Yeah, we have a spin-off in Singapore, which is doing pretty well. And then there was a spin-off in London and England as well. But they became incorporated, so they had to change their name. So they're Queer Climbers London. So they've changed from Climbing Cuties UK, and then it's Climbing Cuties Singapore. So those two do their own thing.
It seems like we'll slowly work our way in, but it does seem like there's a through line of you creating community, creating change, and almost like this activist mindset, I guess, where it's just like you really want to push change. I think because you can see maybe there's a lack, or maybe you can see there is just a brighter future, and really trying to push for that as well. Where's that coming from? Was Climbing Cuties the first thing that you dived into, or was there something previous to? Was there like alluring things that you've always wanted to do? Like you seem really into it, and really good at it as well.
I don't honestly know. Sometimes I question myself as well. I've always sort of volunteered throughout my life. Like when I was quite little, like 11, 12 years old, I used to volunteer at a bird sanctuary, and like just go a couple times a week and just pick up poop and clean out the bird cages and just help out at this rescue. And then, throughout my life, I was like, doing animal advocacy, like animal rights stuff and protesting, and I've always sort of found the time for something I feel is important. And I've also always found time for people in my life. And I think as I've grown older, it's about making sure there's a balance so that I can also have time for myself. So I'm not constantly giving parts of myself away. And part of stepping down from the role of Cuties, which was hard to do, was about that, because I was getting married, and I wanted to sort of move on to the next chapter in my life. And it was taking up so much of my time. It's, a predominantly entirely volunteer run. So it was just a lot of work, and it was filling up a lot of my capacity to just try new things, and I was kind of feeling a little bit stuck in a rut. It's also nice to hand that leadership on to someone else and see other people step into that role and take up that space, because it's definitely not just mine to take over. And I really try and do that, is create a platform, but then hand that over to someone else so that they have opportunities as well. But yeah, I don't know. Who knows why I keep doing it to myself?
Yeah, that's your path. You've been gifted whatever it is that allows you to do it. So yeah, use it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so sick. That's awesome. Uh, you lived in the city for a while then, where you found your feet
Yeah.
climbing, and there was a draw out west, or what was it that made the change and made the move and the life and everything go?
The pandemic. There was definitely a little influx of people that moved out here post-pandemic. I was one of those people that kind of moved through the tail end, so I did a bit of lockdown out in Natty. I hadn't really been outdoor climbing very much. I'd been a handful of times here and there, but wasn't really fully a part of that community at that point. But I had started to teach myself to climb trad at the same time as I was trying outdoor bouldering and trying outdoor sport climbing. It was all coming in at the same time. And I was also not really an outdoorsy person at all at that point. Like I just hadn't really been camping or like hiking or anything. Like my experience in that was just so new, and so it was all coming at me at once. Like the first time I went out to Durit and camped at the Pines, all I had was a tent, and I didn't understand how people slept out in the tent. Like I didn't know that they had sleeping mats. And so I just slept on the ground, and it was incredibly uncomfortable. And the next morning I woke up and I was like, whoa, that was so uncomfortable. And people were like, what have you got in your setup? And I was like, what are you sleeping on? What is that?
Yeah, and everyone's got like thick foam mattresses now, living it.
I just didn't know
That's
how,
hilarious.
like, it was just all, and that was kind of part of what kept me going with Cuties. Was like, oh, there's other people that have never been out there, but also don't have the financial support or the privilege for someone else to share that with them. And I just wanted to make that more accessible. So, you know, we've had North Face support us with camping gear that we lend out to people so they can go outdoors and have the experience that they might want to have if they want to go camping and climbing for the first time outdoors. But yeah, I guess like my personal experience with being such a newbie to sport, outdoor recreation, and like the outdoors in general kind of made me want to share that with others. And yeah, so I kind of learnt trad climbing at the same time I learnt any other outdoor climbing. And I think trad kind of just got a good grasp of me because it was the sort of puzzle, sort of like figuring out, having all the equipment, placing the gear in the rock, and then learning all these things using my brain and everything. Just I love all of that aspect of it. I love the adventure aspect, and you kind of vaguely follow a line, but you're also figuring it out as you go. So I really enjoyed that part of it. So I moved to Natty at the end of the pandemic and went from climbing like grade 10 on trad really, really, really slowly to slowly going up the grades. And I think that was a really nice progression for me to be able to learn how to climb trad and then learning my outdoor climbing skill at the same time. I didn't sort of feel like I had to be climbing certain grades.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, there is something so enticing to trad climbing in itself, whether it's just the sound, you know, of nuts and cams on your harness or whatever it is. There's like that jingle, which is just like, it kind of reminds you of Christmas every now and then. I definitely don't do it enough. But yeah, I would love to get back out there and take my partner out there as well. It would be awesome. It's so interesting touching on like creating those opportunities for people, not just to climb, but to go out and camp and be in the outdoors. You know, like coming from the city, like there's so many people who don't have cars, and like the getting out to those places is kind of a crux and figuring that out.
Really?
Where I was, super lucky where my parents were. I don't think they camped a lot as kids, but we camped a lot as kids. So like having, you know, just how to like peg things down properly and like having that awareness is just like translated to my whole climbing career so beautifully, which I love. And super lucky that I can like, I had, or my mum and dad had a lot of gear, which I now kind of like own or borrow whenever I need to. And yeah, I don't know, comfortability is key when you're out there and you're like kind of working on, for me, like hard sport routes and everything like that as well. Hard for me. Having a good night's sleep and not sleeping on the sticks beneath you is, yeah, is a win for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely get by without all the fancy gear,
Yeah.
but
Oh, totally. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
but at least knowing how to get there and what to do is I think people take a little bit for granted sometimes. Yeah.
Yep. Definitely. What did you find the biggest? So like by the time you moved out there, the climbing community out in Arapalis and Jurat and Natimuk, and the community back in the city, was the big differences between the two?
Well, I guess for me, I was always looking for a place that I could call home, and I felt so welcomed by everyone in Nadi. Um, it's like actually just much more affordable to live here in this sort of, people in our sort of age group as well, looking to buy a house. It's like actually possible to do that. Work might be a slight limitation if there's isn't a career opportunity, I suppose, but I work online and there is plenty of work in the region. But the community, yeah, I guess like having to not needing to sort of be on your phone or like get on transport and commute, and everything just becomes a little bit simpler. I feel like it's a bit of a secret that people are holding on to so we don't get over an influx of too many people living in Nadi, but
I'll edit this out. Yeah, don't worry.
yeah, it's peaceful, it's quiet, it's peaceful. You can have a bit of land. You've got the quiet, except for the trucks that go down the main street. But that's not too bad every now and then. But it's simple. There's not an overwhelming number of choices in terms of where to go. You have to cook your food at home because there isn't a restaurant in town. So you do a lot of cooking and gardening, or you share meals with people, and it's just a simpler life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the dream. Like you hear of, like I've just interviewed Hayden Jamison, and he was just talking about the Pines and just how like kind of special it was for him to be out there, and just like it's such a unique community, like from anywhere around the world that he's climbed. He's kind of relates it back to old Camp 4 and just the vibes and the feelings around there, where everyone is just willing to share and give and whatever else. It's such a beautiful community.
Yeah, Henry Barber came down for Goat Fest just recently over Easter weekend and did a talk, and was going through. He's obviously climbed so many places all over the world, and he said that there's nowhere else like the Pines. I don't have that similar sort of worldly climbing experience, but to hear that from so many different people, I believe them when they say that.
Totally, yeah, for sure. For sure. It makes you almost not want to go and climb in other places, because you're just like, we've got it. We've got it right here.
There's still so much to do, so many other things, like go trail running, or you can go, ride your bike around. There's a lot of other things that you can fill your life and do, but also nice to just not have to do things. You can potter around. There's a lot of pottering or renovating. A lot of people like to renovate homes in Nadi. It's a second hobby.
Do you find, like, I know there's hot pockets around Victoria of, like Dalesford area or Warburton area and everything like that as well. Like they're kind of hot pockets of creativity in themselves. Like you kind of said potter around, which kind of like, clicked something in my mind for like, people who do ceramics. And my uncle lives out in Hillsville, Warburton area, and he's like a really, really prolific like wood carver and works with all these different mediums and everything as well. What's like the art scene like out in Nadi?
Yeah, it's pretty creative. We have a Nadi Fringe Festival, so like our own little fringe event, which for a town of 500 people, and we estimate about 100 climbers. Of those, 100 of those are climbers. I think having a fringe festival for a small community this size is probably unusual. We also have an art gallery, and we have not much else, but we have a strong presence of art and creative people in town for sure. And they're very strongly connected to the climbing community. The members of the board that sort of facilitates a lot of the creative work. There's climbers on there. A lot of the artists that are do events for Fringe are climbers, and the cafe that we have in town, which is currently shut, but was started by climbers. We have a climbing museum, the only one in Australia, also started by climbers. So yeah, the climbers have really contributed a lot, is my understanding from having been here for about 4 years and getting to know the town. They've really sort of created it as, what it is, made the town what it is. So I'm really grateful for that, and hopefully it can continue to thrive and grow. And with the new influx of people that have moved here as well, who are sort of adding their little bit and sort of pushing it in direction. Yeah. But I guess that's the other thing, the mountain itself, like Durite Manor Raffles, it's such a accessible, unique style of climbing that has pretty much something for everyone. I would say, like, I'm a particular type of person and I climb a particular type of thing generally, but we have something for people of all abilities, all ages, families, people who want to climb hard sport or hard trad, or people who want to go bouldering, if you just want a short walk. There's something for everyone at this mountain, and that's what attracts this diversity in the community. That's what allows for us to have this rich, vibrant group of people, and pretty unique, interesting people as well. I think it takes a certain type of person to live sort of 4 hours out in rural Victoria and just climb and do not much else. Well, so that's kind of what makes up this sort of richness that we have here. I think if the mountain was just, grade 25 plus sport climbing, we'd have a different demographic. Same as if we just had, boulders, or if we just had like beginner trad climbing, it would be a different type of, town for sure.
Yeah, it really allows in all those demographics. Like we spoke previously on the phone, and I don't know how quickly it happens in the climbing community around there, but you kind of get like fully enwrapped with Australian climbing history as well. Like you kind of bumping into some of the local legends.
Yeah.
What's that like, sort of being around the people who like really pushed and grew and like facilitated almost all of Australian climbing? Like they're in this hub and you're kind of a part of that community. What does it mean to have those people around also helping to spread the word of how beautiful it all is?
Yeah. I feel so blessed. They are genuinely my friends, not just the local heroes down the road. They've welcomed me into the community, and I've learned a lot from them, not just in climbing, but in life. A lot of wisdom coming from people you have at all different ages as well. I found, the friends I had at the time were sort of within my age group, but then when you start making friends that are 20 or 30 or 40 years older than you, you get a different type of perspective on life, and that's been something that I didn't know I needed in my life either. And so I'm really, really grateful for that. I would say I've got a very, very diverse sort of group of friends in Natimuk. But yeah, I like joke about the museum, the climbing museum across the road, needing to be rebranded because most of the people that are being showcased in there are still alive. They're not dead.
Yeah.
Like it's not that ancient, but it is a great climbing museum. It's the only one. It's got so much amazing history in there. It's definitely worth checking out. But yeah, they really did create like climbing in Australia, as I understand it. Like I know that there's other states and territories have their own history in terms of how climbing was established there, but for Victoria, this is kind of really where it was inspired from, and I feel like I owe it to them to do the advocacy around access and making sure that the opportunities to enjoy this place as a climber or a non-climber is not completely disregarded or I really feel like I guess that's why I'm motivated to advocate for access specifically.
Yeah, and I think having like the lineage and the wisdom of what they've experienced, so it's not just coming from a place of self-knowledge and self-insight, I think is crucial, but also looking out to the community and looking out to people who have been there and done that for years and been around those places, and to be able to draw information and draw like kind of everything around the subject from them, like from the source, because they they started it. And like that's the pit, like that's where it all kind of comes from.
Yeah.
And that kind of touches on, yeah, what you're doing now. And almost, I think, in a weird way, like it's maybe not in a weird way, in a destined way, with the work that you've done with creating community and creating organizations, and then being in the community of Natimuk now. It feels like you are the person to really help push this next step forward with these projects that you are doing. And I guess, share to the listeners what it is that you have been doing in, with everything to do with the parks, land management plans, and the accessibility issues and the closures. For me, I feel like you've been, excuse me, recently, like when I just stumbled across you, you're kind of like my go-to person for the knowledge and for the information now, because I feel like it has been so hard to kind of find the information. Not like fully engrossed in that community. So like when it comes out on like Melbourne Rock Climbing Group or something like that, you're trying to read through legal forms, and I'm just not, I'm not equipped to fully understand. When I'm reading it, it just feels like words to me. You've done that work, and you come from a place of what seems true understanding, and can kind of like make it quite digestible as well.
Yeah, I'm trying my best to put things into formats that can be digestible and understood, and of course I've got my own feelings and emotions driving it, but I'm trying to put the information out there as honestly as I can as well. And I within my role of Climbing Cuties, I represent Cuties on the board of Climbing Victoria, so I'm involved in that capacity quite closely. I've been a part of the working group discussions that are happening with Parks Victoria, so the interim CEO Gus, who's now going to be stepping onto the board of Parks Victoria because they've appointed a new CEO. And with First Peoples State Relations, that's been going on for a few months. So quite closely involved in what's happening behind the scenes, and then locally as well. As a resident of Natimuk in the town, we have discussions amongst people in town as well. So it's more sort of individual advocacy. And then more recently, I started a campaign called Shared Not Shut with one of my friends and neighbour and campaign partner in town as well. And that was something that had been brewing in the background for a while and emerged because I really felt like there needed to be a way for people to advocate for access to outdoor recreation more broadly, not just in Victoria but Australia-wide, in a way that was respectful and in a way that they could get behind without feeling that they were going to trip up on their words or say the wrong thing or be called racist or a colonizer and not know how to discuss the issue, which is just quite difficult. And I'm constantly questioning and asking myself questions and constantly waking up and thinking, am I on the right track? Am I on the right track? Like, feel like it's an ongoing learning journey. But I wanted to create something that people could get behind if they agreed with the values that we've used to build the campaign around, and hopefully more people can get behind an issue that they feel passionate about rather than sitting silent, and also just better understand what's going on. Yeah,
I think the values that you've put behind it is probably some of the ones that I think can resonate with people's core the most. It's like, it feels like love and passion. Like it feels quite simple in that sense. Like you're not coming and put in crazy bias, or like for me, like my involvement in the discussion is always skewed towards climbing bias, and it's always skewed towards the climbing's going, and it just feels like I don't know. But now that there's like a lot more information, I never really knew where the lines were or what was actually happening, but just to hear where you guys are coming from, it really feels, and it's kind of, yeah, obviously pushing me more onto the side of like, well, but why is this happening in this way? Like it is, maybe it makes it more confusing as I get more understanding of it as well.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah,
like, I guess I'm also like, wait, why is this happening? It's
yeah,
been
totally.
months now, and it's still such a big issue, and it's all wrapped around like politics. You know, there's a lot of dirty politics happening in the background. I think, like, I don't really love. That's part of why we wanted to create the campaign to make sure that it wasn't all this like really extremist on like media that was happening, and there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of information that has been clarified but is not being pushed. It's still sitting out there as misinformation, which is frustrating. Um, and I really wanted to understand it myself for one. But then when I saw that things weren't right, I wanted to try and do something about it and get the information out there. And I'll be like super honest in that when I started climbing and I was living in the city, I was climbing at the gym. That was when the issues around access in Garroward and the Grampians was happening, and I had no idea what was going on. And I did try and understand. I tried to read up on it, but like you've just said, it was really confusing and it was really hard to get an understanding of what exactly the problem was. And I was one of the first people to jump on the bandwagon and, just say, of course, like, these are important cultural heritage sites, and they need to be protected, so we'll stay away. I'll just fully accept that, no questions asked, not even knowing what the cultural heritage sites are, not like properly understanding the proportionate size of the closures versus and why they were being closed, just no questions. And so having now moved to Natty and being a part of the community and invested in outdoor climbing, like I have personal investment here as well, like people have criticized me for, oh, you're stepping in now, are you? Oh, now you're doing something about it. What about back then? And I'll just, I'm like, okay, well, do you not want me to be involved? Because that's another thing. But also, you've got to give up people opportunities to learn and be on their own journey. And you've got to give people like some sense of understanding to say, okay, maybe it wasn't clear. Maybe it wasn't, the PR campaign or whatever was happening at the time was confusing and people couldn't get behind it for this, and this reason. So what can I do better this time around? So that's what I'm trying to do, is just to do better for my, like, a version, like my past self, so that if there's someone like me in the city who is confused and is unsure and is afraid to question people in power that are making big decisions about our future lives and future generations, maybe I can make that a little bit easier for them to digest. And I don't need them to come out and join me in anything, big and front and center. I'm happy for people to just keep reading and asking questions. I think that's important.
I think that's what makes your voice so powerful as well, because you've come from the place of what feels like almost like, where not even misinformation there. It was just, like a non-information that was really coming out, and you were just siding with what you felt was right. But then that accessibility to information and being exposed to, like we were saying, now your friends, but local legends and the people who have been there and around that area that whole time, and sort of seeing the closures and the bans happen, seemingly like unjust in some locations. It really opened up your eyes and lit that fire behind you, where you just maybe you've got a really big, maybe you find like injustice, like you really, really try and push for justice where there is injustice, and it's like very commendable by you.
I mean, I've worked so hard for access and inclusion in the outdoors, like we touched on before, and so it just feels like it actually feels like an insult to sit opposite someone at Parks Victoria for me to ask them directly, what did you do to consider accessibility and inclusion in the decisions that you made? Because they are the decision makers and they wrote the plan, that disastrous plan. And for them to look me in the face and say, no, nothing, we didn't. Yep. We didn't take those necessary steps. And then to tell me that comes that they said that it's an afterthought. Basically, it's something that we do afterwards. To just look at me, I was just felt so insulted because I've done so much, and other people in Australia in sport and outdoor recreation, outdoor spaces have been doing so much to make the outdoors more accessible, because it's good for all of us. It's for our health and well-being. You know, people are stuck on their phones these days, and we just need to get out into nature and, you know, disconnect from the internet, and to make that more accessible for everyone so that we can all be happier, healthier people should be prioritized. But the fact that they sat there and they just didn't do that is just makes me quite frustrated at how incompetent they are at their job. And that's just a matter of fact. You know, it goes against best practice entirely. Inclusion and accessibility should be considered within the process of decision making, not afterwards. And that's in like international standards. There are guidelines. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. And for them to not follow that process, it goes against, you know, the Equal Opportunity Act, the Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities Act. There's multiple pieces of legislation that would completely go against that. So it's very annoying that that's happening and they're not being held accountable.
Yeah, in your post you use the term, and probably I would use it as well, how they're weaponizing the system to create these closures as well. And that branch of accessibility that you're talking about, I listened to Louise Shepherd on the Nugget Climbing podcast, and I know you become close with her. And that for me was kind of like the first true insight of like long form discussion and conversation about the subject. And that opened my eyes quite massively as well, because she was talking about, you know, how it's, you know, parks were claiming that it's only 40% of the closures, 40 to 50% of the closures, which in your post you spoke differently of. But in those closures is like so many of those accessible, easy climbs for the kids coming up through school programs, for the people who have passed like their prime of climbing and just need those easier grades. So it's like almost like we were talking about before, you almost lose that sense of community and culture if it is a place of just 25 sport. And the closures, in a sense, could make it that, and lose that ability to, have that sense of like pure community that there is around the area.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing when rights come into conflict. So we're talking about protection of Aboriginal cultural heritage, and then the right to access nature, or the freedom to move, which is what it is under the legislation, and do so in a way that we choose, so not in a way that's curated by Parks Victoria, where go here, park here, walk there, look at that, walk back, pay for this. So I would like to have a bit more freedom in terms of how I access nature. So when those rights come into conflict, or when any right comes into conflict, which happens all the time, there is a process where the two things are considered and you find a balance. And that's not what's happening here. And that's what we are wanting to happen. That seems like a reasonable ask. And there are processes in place. Of course, there is cultural heritage at Durai, and it should be protected and celebrated. What we're saying is it proportionate to what's being closed? Can we involve experts of this activity, which you're trying to restrict, to be engaged in the discussion, so that we don't have to do these huge, big overreaches in terms of closures? So we very quickly, a lot of climbing nerds online went and did crunch the numbers and found that it's far from the majority open, which is being promoted by Parks Victoria and the Minister's Office and the media. It's actually over 63% of climbs that will be closed according to the plan. And that alone is a very different number. Like you said, of that, if the closures go ahead, then beginner safe routes will be completely eradicated. The guiding industry will pretty much die. There'll be nothing for them, and there'll be nothing for people to go out and safely learn to climb outdoors in this area. And we can't just go somewhere else. No one's just going to go to Buffalo to do the same thing, or go to, Queensland and go to Frog, or go to the Blue. It's just, there is nowhere else like this in Australia. Like, I make that really clear to people, because they just tell me to go somewhere else, which I don't really want to do. But I also can't do. Anyway, yeah, so that number I think is important, and then to recognize what is left of what is left, what is actually accessible and beginner friendly and suitable for this diverse community that we've been talking about. If like a similar approach to what was taken at Taipan, which is not necessarily an approach that is accepted by the whole climbing community, but I'm just putting it out there as an example. If that approach was taken, then about 10% of climbs at Durai would be closed. So that's the number that we're sort of have in our heads, that I guess it's like, okay, this is worth advocating for, because it feels like there's a huge disparity in terms of what the plan could look like and what it currently looks like. It's worth advocating for.
Yeah.
Another number that people might want to know is that of the sort of rough 2,000 climbs that have been proposed as closed, only about 1,500 of them do not intersect with cultural heritage. So they've been closed. About 1,500 climbs are proposed to be closed because they're within the region of cultural heritage, don't have an intersection with them, and are within this wide buffer zone of. So that's potentially, over 1,500 climbs that could remain open. That's a huge number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like, that's 3/4 of the closures that could be completely avoided, but it just seems like it's a blanket ban that's been thrown on because people have talked about it's almost, in a sense, easier for them and the paperwork and the bureaucracy to just it would be, it seems like, a lot of work too, which climbers are doing that work, but for parks to do that work, it would be a lot of work for them to delineate what is actually within the heritage listed and what isn't, and create that separation of area to area and climbs to climbs, which it's possible to do. Like that's the argument. Like that is happening, and that's what people in the community are doing. It's a blessed community to be part of, because climbers are of every background. That everyone's coming together and really really pulling it through. But what more do you think?
Well, I mean, I guess I just have to the way that we're talking about this issue is very sort of much around policy and process. And I just want to make that clear, because the missing part of it is in regards to upholding the principles of Aboriginal self-determination, which is the driver behind the legislation that allows this sort of plan to be drafted up and potentially go ahead. And so I think it's been a difficult topic because people are having to question that, and people having to question what they believe in and what they want to stand up for and what they want to advocate for. And there's that internal conflict. For me, there's definitely that sort of questioning in the back of my mind. And so, yes, whilst there is a policy and a process that could result in a better plan, of course, we also have to understand that the traditional owners in this area, represented by the Barangay Gadjin Land Council, they are the decision makers in regards to how their cultural heritage should be protected. And so that also needs to be a part of the discussion, and it's hard to do because we don't have any information and we're not able to sit down and have a discussion with them either. So it's hard to advocate for something fully without having a piece of the puzzle there. If BGLC wanted a 1,000 sort of kilometre barrier around each piece of quarry site, then that's something that they could push for. And so that makes this difficult. Like who is the person to decide what the buffer zone should be? And this is why we fall back on legislation. This is why we fall back on, the Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities Acts. There is international standards. Again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but because that that falls at the moment. Our local, like, state legislation puts it in the hands of someone to decide based on how they kind of feel because of the principles of Aboriginal self-determination. That's when we should fall back on international sort of policy and process. This is what I believe in anyway, to say, okay, that's the case, but how can we make it so that this is balanced, and how can we make it so it's not, so we're considering, you know, people with disabilities and the rights of non-Aboriginal people as well, people that live here and, you know, also benefit from this place. Does it have to be one group of people's rights above another? Does it have to be a fight? Can it be something that we, you know, where the intersections can lead to celebration? That's me rambling, but I just feel like for me, Aboriginal self-determination means First Nations people have the power, the right, and the resources to make decisions about their own lives and communities and future. Absolutely. I still feel very comfortable with that. However, when it comes into conflict with non-Aboriginal people, like myself in this particular situation, it doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be a clash. There is a beautiful opportunity to build a stronger society.
And so the BGLC, they're not open with communication, or you're just restricted with communication with them? Like, can parks sort of step aside and kind of go straight to the source and have the communication there with them about like what that looks like, so it's not just this subjective closure line, the kilometre or whatever it ends up sort of being? Are they open to that sort of questioning and communication?
Yeah, so I personally, when I moved here about 4 years ago, started to reach out to BGLC to request permission to run events on country because we were running camps with Durite. I've contacted for cultural sort of services, welcome to countries, and just generally sent emails to say, hey, this is what I'm doing in Natimuk and at the mountain, these events, you know, most of them free for community. Also opportunities that I've had where I've run bigger events and asked them to see if they would like to be involved. I have funding, etc. Unfortunately, I've never received a reply. I think that's just indicative of the fractured relationship between the local climbing community and the local land council. And I think that's a much bigger story that I don't think I can share because I wasn't part of that. But that's somewhere around when the Garrawed Grampians issues were coming up. So the relationship was already fractured by the time I moved to town and started sort of trying to build a relationship with the council. And it's only gotten worse. We haven't been able to hear any responses. As a representative of Climbing Victoria, Parks Victoria has very much said that this is not a process that you are involved in. We will invite you in when it's relevant. So we've sat back and been told by Parks that this is not our place and we cannot invite ourselves in. Fair enough, we did. We sat patiently. And then in November last year, the plan was dropped without any notice, a couple of days, the day before the public holiday. And it was this whole palaver because they didn't give us any warning about this plan and didn't involve us in the process anyway. So if people do wonder, oh, but why haven't you reached out, or what have you done? We have tried. I have personally tried. Other people in town have tried. And not to say there aren't people in town who do have a good relationship with traditional owners and Burrendjeri Gadjin Land Council, but I'm just speaking on behalf of this specific issue, I suppose, or around climbing. Since the plan dropped and the town kind of started advocating, people in town started advocating for access, there hasn't been a conversation that I'm aware of. And Climbing Victoria have not been able to engage in conversation with BGLC.
That's so interesting. Do you feel like that's, where would that be coming
No idea.
from?
And I'm hesitant to make any assumptions as to why that might be the case. I think there's a lot of history, and I guess the only thing I could potentially relate it to is is my understanding of how marginalised and communities generally respond to a situation like this, where they feel like they may be under attack or being questioned, or they might be like their validity is being questioned. It makes sense as to why they may choose to stay silent as a form of, looking after themselves and their community. So I don't, I think that it's reasonable, but doesn't mean it can't be frustrating at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. What are the things that like you're doing a lot, but like climbers that are listening, or even just outdoor enthusiasts that are listening? So like the full drivers, the trail runners, the adventurers, myself. What are the things that we can be doing? Like we get sent those links to sign petitions and everything like that. But is there more that the community could be doing to reach out, like the letters to the local government and everything as well? But like, it just feels like it's so, which, I mean, maybe it feels so much more for you, but it feels so much out of our hands that it's just kind of sitting and waiting patiently.
Yeah, I mean, something that people can definitely do is writing to their politicians. So in whichever areas they are. I'm learning very quickly about politics. I didn't know much about it until I started having to engage with ministerial discussions. But we're in a very safe seat in this region, in the Wimmera, in Natimuk. It just means that there's less likely to be any major attention being paid to this area, because it's unlikely to swing. The votes are unlikely to swing. So it just means that it can result in like areas like this in feeling like a little less cared for, or a little less attention being paid to them. So I would say if people know that they're in, if they're in a swing seat or a seat that could, sway, then they should definitely write to their politicians and make them aware of what's happening, and tell them that they live in that postcode and that's their representative, but they go rock climbing at Durack Mount Arapiles, or they go bushwalking at, the Grampians Garroward, and all off-track bushwalking is closed there as well, and that matters to them. So like raising the issues that matter to them to the politicians who are paying close attention, that's something people can do, especially now, even with the federal election. I think people say that it doesn't really matter, but I think it totally does. It's the number one rock climbing destination in the world, and it is to people interstate. So people coming from all across Australia to climb at Durack Mount Arapiles. It absolutely is a federal issue, and also it's an issue that other states and territories are looking at as well. So access more broadly to outdoor recreation, so that activities aren't closed by default, so that we are talking to the recreation groups to ask them, how can we better manage, how can we provide, better resources, better funding, how can we do the activity in a respectful, sustainable way, how can we continue to participate in nature and experience nature without just like, oh, we don't get it, we don't understand it, so we're just going to ban it. Because that's the approach that's happening at the moment. Write to your politicians. If you're in a marginal seat, get your facts, understand what's happening, understand what's at risk, and tell them, because hopefully they should start caring.
I'm sure it's only going to grow with more awareness and more information coming out, and if there's more letters sitting on those tables and desks of the people who can make that like policy change and the more stern change, then it's only going to create more movement. So I don't fully know how to do it yet, but I will leave stuff in the show notes that people can access, and hopefully there's like single links that leads them to the place. Otherwise, make sure you go and do it, everyone.
We just cut out for a second there.
We're back.
I think the other thing people can do is they could, start following Shared Not Shut if they would like to, if it feels like it aligns with something they believe in. because we will be proactively working in this space. I'm not sure what will be next, but we'll be engaged in what happens with the dry management plan, but also other access issues. We've got a form on the website so people can start to put in the impact that access issues around Victoria and also Australia-wide are having on their experiences in outdoor recreation. So feel free to sort of jump in and add that in there. But yeah, other than we hosted a vigil event over Easter. We had like about 300 people sort of gather on private property, and it was raining and damp and cold, but it was really lovely just to see everyone walk in together, really peaceful, formed a big heart. We got some drone footage and then went back off to their campsites and had some talks as well, but it was a bit too cold to stay out there too long. But other than that, we've mostly in the stage of building relationships with peak bodies and outdoor recreation groups. And we'll be trying to sort of build up a bit more of a reputation and rapport because it is a newish campaign, and sharing truths and sharing information as much as possible as well.
Yeah, it's for sure going to be the place where I'm going to for the information and the access and the what is happening, because you're doing some deep dives, and seeing the footage of that what that drone got of everyone pulling into a heart, and it was super nice, just so lovely. Like I think the rain and everything like that kind of made it almost cooler in that sense. Like it just shows the heart of the people who are willing to still go out and face the environment and show up for what they believe in and their cause and their passion, and led by you and the organisation.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, the main thing about Shared Not Shut is that we really believe that connecting with nature and the outdoors, and in whatever way you would like to, whether that's sitting and meditating on a rock or going on a big adventure and going rock climbing or something, it's part of who we are as human beings, and it shouldn't be unduly restricted without a transparent and genuine community engagement process. And so that's what it sort of boils down to. People can sort of read up on the values of the website as well, but it doesn't mean that it has to go into conflict with Aboriginal cultural heritage rights. We believe that it can go hand in hand, and it should go hand in hand with respecting Aboriginal rights and acknowledging the deep traumas that are caused by colonisation and dispossession from land and disruptions to cultural practices. But we really want to promote an opportunity where we can truly share and recognise that First Nations people have cared for this place and have belonged to country and continue to belong to country for tens of thousands of years. But it doesn't have to come into conflict in the way it is at the moment with access to nature and outdoor recreation. There is a way forward that's better for everyone.
Yeah, and what a beautiful sight that would be if you like jump forward into the future, and you do have I believe it was you that posted pictures of Arapalis before and after climbers being there, and it was like trees planted, like rocks restored in certain places, like the active environmental and all the work being done there to create like a sustainable environment. It would be so nice to see the climbing community come together with the traditional owners and harnessing the knowledge and the wisdom of both to come together and like really treat the land and bring that land to a place of like where it's like just meant to be, and harness it's harness the old ways and the allow the climbers and the traditional owners to really be there together and work in these events together would be such a beautiful sight.
That's the thing. I think when there's that image floating around on the internet, but when I talk about all the great sort of volunteer work that people have done at the mountain to regenerate and look after the place and continue to do through sort of crag care and crag stewardship, it's not to discount or dismiss the care that First Nations people have done for the land over many, many centuries. I think that people jump to this immediate sort of comparison or, oh no, but this is, this one overrides this one. I feel like we really need to be able to see it as like, okay, but we live in a democratic society now, and we all live here. It's, yes, colonization was truly horrible, and the mountain used to be a shooting range, so you can still find like the casings for bullets at the bottom of the watchtower faces if you take a metal detector. Actually, just look at the ground, you'll see them. They used to be able to graze with sheep right up to the mountain or drive your car right up to the cliff, and it's all regenerated. And we're not saying that we know better or, oh, look what we've done. We're just kind of, it's disappointing because the previous management plan did mention Friends of Arapalis, did mention the volunteer work and the contribution by the community to look after the place. And the new plan is all but erased that. It's just non-existent. And so it's, again, this sort of like erasure of the contributions we have made. And so I think that's why it feels like we're trying to talk ourselves up a little bit, because it has been sort of like completely eradicated from any discussions. And so it doesn't have to be a comparison or who suffered more or who's done more. It's like, how can we both bring together, like you've said, what we both contribute and look after this place? Because at the end of the day, I think that's something we share, is like we share a love for the mountain. And so how can we do that together? Why does it have to be a competition?
Totally. And I think just to touch on as well, I think when I speak to non-climbers and people who have just hiked at the Grampians or even just on the news, they hear about the closures. I think a way to step forward there as well is to obviously not jump in their face and force education on them, but really bring a sense of awareness to them as well. Like if everyone has just a next level of knowledge as to what's happening, then it's not just the climbing community or the outdoor community that can help facilitate the change. It's kind of everyone around. So like your friends and your family who aren't, climbers or hikers or anything like that. And hopefully that really starts to change in the zeitgeist a little bit. Like the more you speak to just the everyday person, if that awareness grows to a level of just a minimal understanding that it could be just a blanket ban and it could be just a little bit of like an injust and weaponization of cultural heritage, then I think
and
that's where funding, a full change.
Poor management. Like it's definitely easier to close something off than than manage people within that area. I can see why that's kind of become the solution, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be what's happening. It's much easier to close it off and just say, okay, now we don't have to figure out how to manage the people that engage in that space. And the concept of sharing as well. I think we've had some discussions with people questioning our choice of the word shared or share within the campaign, and the idea that maybe it's not a term that's fully accepted by the First Nations community, but to fully understand the definition of the word within why we're using it within the campaign is because we believe that sharing nature doesn't mean we're ignoring the history. It means we want to work towards a system that is inclusive, and so we want the process to be shared so that the outcomes can be shared better. So I guess I wanted to make that clear, but it's not just affecting rock climbers, like you said. I don't know if people are fully aware that the draft plan proposes to restrict all off-track bushwalking, walking in at Durite, which means that 90% of the park will be closed if that goes ahead, because you'll only be able to walk down these trails. And just to be clear, none of those trails lead to climbing areas, so I'm really confused behind the logic of how we can climb if we can't walk off track. You walk down the trail. There's technically 3 designated tracks at the mount that I am aware of because the plan's really confusing. So if I can only walk up this one gully track how am I going to get to the climbing area? If I go up that cliff, how am I going to get down, without being in, like, breaking the rules? And that's the same in the Grampians. You can't off-track walk in the Grampians either in Garry Word. And so majority of the park is actually closed because Parks Victoria is very much in control of where you go, where you walk, and what you see.
Yeah, wow.
And I don't know, people might be okay with that. Tourists might be okay with that if they're going for their one visit per year or lifetime. But bird watchers, environmental scientists, we have older adults, people with disabilities, we have families, we have people that want to picnic, that want to trail run. There's all these other ways to enjoy the outdoors that are going to be affected in the future. If this becomes the baseline, if this sets a precedent for what happens, other management, there's maybe about 100 management plans that Parks Victoria are responsible for in Victoria, and they are being reviewed, all of them. They have to be. They can't just sit there. They have to be reviewed as per the Parks Victoria Act. They have to be reviewed every certain number of years. And we've banned off-track bushwalking in the Grampians, and it could happen at Durite. So where else is next is the question.
Yep.
If that's been accepted.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. If that's the seeming trajectory, then it's trying to make it's what an important place to actually make a stand as well. It's like, it is the pinnacle of what I would look at as like outdoor everything, it's so beautiful. And there's just so much it seems like locals, hypocrisy and paradox throughout this management plan. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, if you stand at the top of the mount at the lookout and you just look around, it's just farmland, so it's, people go up here and they got engaged at the mountain, or they have somewhere that they shared a special moment with a family member. People just go for a walk up the cliff, and so it's non-climbers, local community. It's where they go to access nature, and this is why it's become such a I think it's more than just a climber issue. It's for everyone that lives in town that also wants to be able to freely access the mountain or understand why the restrictions are in place, because there's so little information. So I think that's something that's worth highlighting, is like people that live here, this is their local park. If you live in Northcote, it might be Darebin, but you also have other parks that you can go to, but this is it. Other than this, it's like farmland. There's the river, also great, but in terms of a state park, this is it.
Is there a place where you're posting or sharing the stories that people are leaving on the Shared Not Shut website? Are you putting those out? Because I find that also, I read the 50th issue of the Vertical Life magazine, and it had some stories in there of they were all climbers, I believe, but just what Durite meant to them and their own personal story. There was, I can't remember how old he was. He was probably in his 80s and I think he'd lost an arm or something like that. So the accessibility for him. It was just one of those, that's just the single story. And it helps just build a bigger picture,
There's an account called Humans of Arapalis. I think it's on Instagram and Facebook. So the stories are being collected there. That's being run by someone else. And I think they're still consistently collecting stories. So people can definitely go and have a read and check things out. I'd encourage people to come out to Durite. It's still open. There's lots of climbs that are still open. If you are unsure about the proposed closures, then I guess stick to the climbs that are proposed to be open or remain open for sure. I'm not advocating for climbing on any of the currently closed areas. So I would suggest sticking to that, just so that we can continue to put out a respectful message that respects requests of the traditional owners until we know what is and isn't intersecting with cultural heritage, until that's really clear. But the park's still open. Come climb, come check out the museum, and spend a little bit of time in Natimuk. Come to the pub and have a drink and talk to some people, and spend some time at the Pines to fully sort of experience this place because everyone should, because I love it so much, but also so that they can, I guess, get a better understanding of what they're advocating for, whatever the story is that they want to share. But yeah, there's other people doing good work. Shared Not Shut is not aiming to be another group or committee or peak body at all. We just want to be a message that people can get behind. So if people are involved in a club or an organisation of any outdoor recreation group anywhere in Australia and they would like to get in touch, definitely send us an email and we can have a discussion. Something we want to make sure we do is talk to the relevant outdoor recreation groups so that we don't speak on behalf of them without having spoken to them beforehand. I don't want to assume that they are interested in backing this campaign or that their issue is related to something that we're putting out. So we're doing a lot of work to make sure we get the information clear and work as transparently as possible.
Oh man, it really feels like you're thinking of everything, and that's what you want to see with someone doing this as well. Like, you kind of bringing every value in, every perspective, and every group into this, and really trying to figure it, really trying to figure it out as well. So like, massive commendable values, and really appreciate what you guys are doing out there. It's someone's got to do it, and it falls onto your arms. And you have the community's support, you have my support, and hopefully you have all the listeners' support as well. Is there anything else that you kind of...
It's scary, to be honest.
Oh, I could imagine.
It's scary.
It's not like it's a small entity that you're going up against.
Yeah, people have messaged and said some pretty nasty things to me, and it's scary to put yourself out there and question government and processes that we're supposed to blindly accept, and especially when it's an issue that can so easily put into this whole like, oh, you're a racist, you're a colonizer topic. But I feel like I've become I feel more confident as a person, I suppose, having had these difficult conversations with people and really reflected on what allyship for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities means to me, and continuing to reflect on that. So if what I've been saying sounds really bland and process driven, that's intentional. Behind the scenes, I'm doing a lot of the other work to think about how I can make sure that this is respectful and is doing the learning back then. But I really wanted to focus on the government and Parks Victoria and how this is the policy behind this and the processes behind this.
For sure. It definitely doesn't come across bland. It comes across as passion to me, which I think I love hearing, and a lot of people love hearing passion as well. And I'm sorry that people are just there's always going to be keyboard warriors back there just throwing shade. But I think if you know that you're coming from a place of understanding and inclusivity and a place of truth and love, I think you can sit comfortably with that and just know they're just writing. Like, I don't think they have an understanding of what is happening. And I know you have a lot more support than what you do on the other side, I feel.
We're all on a different learning journey. So I'm really happy to have respectful conversations with people if people want to reach out and talk. And people have as well through private messages. And I really appreciate that, because I think there's other people that are quietly confused and questioning their own sort of just experiencing that cognitive dissonance. So let's just talk, because the internet is just this like one-way place where people just fire things at each other. And I think it's been so much more helpful to sit down and talk and listen. Sometimes I just want to just sit and listen to someone's perspective and digest that. So let's just sit and listen and engage in conversation and learn together.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you want to touch on? I think we've covered a lot of things. I think I mean, you could probably speak on it for you've done so much looking into and research and have been in the pocket for so long that you could speak for so much
Yeah.
time. But yeah, the important things I think have been touched on, and hopefully people can walk away with a bit more of an understanding, hopefully a new perspective of what is happening out there if they didn't really know or didn't have much of an understanding. I think your voice is such a good one to have in the ears, because it does come from a place of respect. So really, really appreciate that. But yeah, if there's anything else you'd like to leave the listeners with.
No, hopefully it came across well. I'm still learning to talk about the issues. So, maybe if people just want to get onto the sharednotshot.au website, and then we do have a page where we outline our sort of values and principles. So they can have a read of that and see if that aligns with something that they believe in. I think that'll be the main place for broader access issues, but otherwise Climbing Victoria are continuing to do work in the background, and I'm engaged in those conversations. So I'll do my best to keep people updated with as much transparency as possible so people can find out what's going on through that Facebook page as well.
And as well, I saw on your Instagram, it's Natimuk Wellness as well, where there's like little community events happening as well. Maybe share a little bit of that if people are out there and camping and want to get involved in some things. It looks like you're doing some fun work there as well. Yeah,
Natimuk Wellness on Instagram. I received some funding for some workshops and programs in Natimuk. They're all free. They're all run by locals in town because we have this like eclectic group of interesting, amazing people. So everything from aerial silks to yoga. We've got some workshops called Sacred Geometry, which is really about numbers, but how they relate to everything in life and the universe and everything else. Really interesting discussions. Everything's entirely free. Just have to RSVP online. There's art therapy. There's Ayurveda workshops, circus and movement. It's all about creating sort of spaces where people can try new things to support their mindfulness and connection, and their sort of whole person well-being. And I've tried to make it really beginner friendly. So if you're in town, if you're here for a weekend and have a day off and want to come experience Natimuk a little bit, come join a session, and hopefully you can meet some of the other locals as well.
That's awesome. I'd love to hear that. Well, you sound incredibly busy, so I appreciate the time that you spent sitting down with me and getting this convo flowing and getting the information out there. Thanks
for listening to me ramble on.
No, anytime. If you've got more to say, just let me know, and hopefully I can, by the time of release and getting these conversations out here, hopefully there's a bit of a platform to create change as well is what I'm aiming for. So I appreciate that you're the voice, and this is just the conduit to kind of amplify your voice out to the listeners. So I appreciate your time, and really can't wait to see what else happens. There's some really, really cool work.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. And congratulations on the marriage.
Thanks.
No worries. Thanks, Melissa. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll stay in contact. Thanks.
Basically rock climbing.